There are some stories that never leave you. Cases that stay open with so many unanswered questions, just waiting for someone to explain what really happened. Today, I want to tell you about 5 disappearances that are still as baffling today as they were when they first occurred. But unlike the infamous disappearances of people like Amelia Earhart or Madeleine McCann, these 5 stories haven't dominated the headlines, but they are just as chilling. These are the stories that make you wonder how someone could seemingly vanish without a trace. Number 5, Zelig Williams. In October 2024, the dance world is stunned when Broadway performer Zelig Williams, known for his roles in Hamilton and MJ the Musical, disappears without a trace. Now, he's 32 years old, charismatic, and at the height of his career, which makes his sudden disappearance all the more baffling. On October 3rd, 2024, Zelig is at his mom's house in South Carolina. When she sees him heading out the door with headshots in hand, she assumes he's on his way to make copies, like the kind of errand you would expect from a performer chasing his next big show. He drives off in her red Ford Escape. Less than an hour later, though, Zelig's friends in New York receive an SOS crash alert from his phone, a notification that he's been in a wreck, basically. Concerned, they immediately call his mom to ask if he's okay and to see if she knows what happened. And as you'd expect, she rushes to the area where the alert indicated the crash occurred, fearing the worst. But there is no crash, no car, no sign of Zelig. Later that day, his SUV is found abandoned at a trailhead parking lot about 30 minutes from his mom's home. There's no sign of a struggle, no blood, no broken glass. But inside the car, there are some unsettling clues. His shoes are on the floorboard. His clothes are folded neatly in the driver's seat. It almost looks as if he deliberately undressed. But why? The bizarre details don't stop there. A park ranger later talks to a man who claims that he was driving toward the trailhead when he passed a red car. But after passing it, the car turned around and followed him to the parking lot. According to this witness, when he parked, a man got out of the red car and started following him down the trail. But this man wasn't just walking behind him. He was acting erratic, dancing as he strips off his clothes and tosses them around, until he is fully naked and dancing on a bridge railing. Now, given the red car and the location, they assume that this was Zelig. But here's the problem. At the same time that the witness claims to see Zelig, his phone is pinging 90 minutes away in another town. So, was it really him on the trail? Looking to somehow make sense of all of this, police trace the movements of his car, but the findings raise even more questions. The car appears to have been driven in loops for hours before it's left at the trail. Now, complicating all of this is the fact that Hurricane Helene had just hit before Zelig went missing, and it flooded the area. So it made searching really difficult, but they did go out there. They were looking for him with drones and ATVs and helicopters. But it took some time for divers to get into the river, specifically below the bridge where that naked man was reportedly dancing. But even when divers were finally able to enter the water, they found nothing. Zelig's family believes that he may have been in a vulnerable state. They share that he had recently stopped taking his medication. He'd also been fasting and was exploring new churches. But they and others also think it's very possible that he could have met someone on the trail who meant to harm him. What makes this case even more heartbreaking is that Zelig is his mother's only surviving child. His 2 sisters died in a car accident years earlier, and dance was how he honored them. To this day, no trace of Zelig has been found. Not in the woods, not in the river, not in hospitals or shelters. His phone remains dark, has never been found, and his family is left with endless questions. Did Zelig walk away from his life? Was he in the middle of a mental health crisis? Or did he cross paths with someone who meant him harm? For now, all we know is that a brilliant performer, a man who brought stories to life through dance, vanished on an ordinary October day. And until he's found, Zelig Williams' disappearance will remain one of the most haunting mysteries in recent years. Number 4, Stephen Clark. On December 28, 1992, 23-year-old Stephen Clark goes for a walk with his mom along the beach in this small town on England's northeast coast. They stroll the familiar 2-mile path in the neighboring town of Saltburn. And when they reach the pier, Stephen says that he needs to use the restroom, so they split up. Stephen heads to the men's, Mom heads to the ladies'. Now, when she comes back out, Stephen isn't there. And at first, she waits, maybe he's still in the bathroom. Then after it's been a little bit, she thinks oh, he must have gone ahead of her, and so she starts walking back home. But he isn't on the path. And when she gets back to the house, she discovers that he isn't there either. In fact, Stephen never comes home again. And it's important to note that Stephen had very little on him when he vanished. No wallet, no passport, no belongings, nothing. But Stephen wasn't the type to just disappear. As a child, he'd been hit by a car, and so that left him with limited use of one arm and this distinctive limp. But he was independent. He'd recently won an award through a program that helps people with disabilities find work, and he even started seeing someone romantically. Now, in the days that followed his disappearance, a few people reported sightings. One family friend swears that he sees Stephen 2 days later in a nearby town. Another woman claims that she spots him weeks later walking with an older man in glasses, but neither sighting is ever confirmed. Now, decades go by where we don't really know anything, and then the case takes a shocking turn. In 2020, nearly 30 years after Stephen vanishes, his elderly parents, Doris and Charles Clark, are arrested on suspicion of murdering their own son. Now, the case against them hinges on an anonymous letter that police received, accusing the parents directly, but, by the way, offering no evidence. So in response, detectives dig up the family's backyard, but they find nothing. Months later, Doris and Charles are cleared, but the family is just left stunned and then devastated by the accusations and public suspicion. And at the end of it all, they're still no closer to finding out what happened to their son. To this day, Stephen Clark's disappearance remains one of the UK's most baffling mysteries. Did he walk away on his own? Did something happen on that short walk from the pier? Or does the truth lie with someone who's never come forward? Number 3, John and Shelly Markley. On December 15, 1995, in the small town of Bristolville, Ohio, John and Shelly Markley vanish into thin air. That afternoon, their 15-year-old daughter Ruth comes home from school to a scene that doesn't really make sense. Coffee pot is boiled dry. Her parents' clothes for a funeral that night are laid out on their bed. Her mom's purse, lighter, cigarettes, things she would never leave the house without, just sit there in plain sight. But John and Shelly are gone. Even more alarming is that for the first time ever, Ruth sees that John's gun cabinet is unlocked. When the couple doesn't show up to the funeral that evening or come home that night, the family finally reports them missing. Now, police find John's red Chevy Silverado truck abandoned outside a restaurant about 20 minutes away from the house. And inside the truck, they find tarps, Shelly's cell phone, and potentially other evidence, though accounts differ as to what police actually collect from the vehicle. Even stranger, though, that same truck was spotted earlier in the day at a Walmart parking lot where John's niece, she's the one that saw it. She writes, "Hi, Uncle John," in the dirt that was caked on the side. So someone must have moved the truck. The question is, who? Now, we know that John and Shelly were alive in that truck at some point because a bank teller remembers seeing John and Shelly in the truck just hours before they disappear. But they say that a third person was with them. A slim, dark-haired man sits in the passenger seat as Shelly cashes a $1,000 check. And that is the last confirmed sighting of the couple. But then come the phone calls. John's brother-in-law starts receiving these bizarre ransom demands from a man claiming that John and Shelly are alive but being held in Toronto. He demands $10,000 and warns that they'll be sacrificed by a cult if the family doesn't pay up. So Police stage a sting on New Year's Eve after a ransom note directs them to hide cash inside a pile of penguin sweatshirts at the local mall. Now, instead of kidnappers, they arrest a former employee of John's, Stephen Durst, and Stephen's teenage daughter. Now, it turns out Stephen once lived with the Markleys, but they left on bad terms. Now, he ends up getting convicted of the extortion plot, effectively taking advantage of their disappearance, but he's never charged with anything tied to their actual disappearance. And almost 30 years later, no one seems to know what really happened to the Markleys. Were they victims of a former employee's grudge? Was this a random kidnapping? Or was it something else entirely? Our investigative reporting revealed a wild, tangled web of family feuds, and maybe that might hold the key to solving this decades-old case. Number 2, the Millbrook Twins. On March 18, 1990, 15-year-old fraternal twins, Danette and Jeanette Millbrook, leave their home in Augusta, Georgia, to walk to their godfather's house for bus money. On the way, they stop by their sister's place, then a nearby gas station where a cashier remembers them buying chips and soda. But they never make it to their godfather's house. Their mom reports them missing that same night, but instead of launching a search, police tell her to just wait 24 hours. Now, when the report is finally filed and taken, the officer gets nearly everything wrong. I mean, misspelling their last name, listing the wrong birthday for them, and even writing down the wrong street address for the twins' home. The first investigator on the case dismisses the girls as runaways, despite the fact that they have left behind seizure medication, personal belongings, and had no more than $20 on them. As the weeks turn into years, the case only gets more bizarre. Their names are eventually removed from the National Missing Persons database after police wrongly claim that they've been found. And at one point, their mother is even told that the girls have been placed in foster care, which makes no sense, especially since there's no paperwork or evidence to prove it. Meanwhile, possible connections to violent criminals go ignored. Around the time that the twins disappear, a local man named Joseph Patrick Washington, a suspected serial killer, mind you, is attacking women in the very same neighborhood that the twins disappeared from. And he lived just blocks from the twins' father, who also had a violent past. Decades later, new investigators reopened the case, but the original files are missing, and so leads quickly fizzle out. Danette and Jeanette's family have fought for more than 30 years to prove that they didn't run away. And today, they remain one of the only missing twin cases in America. Their family is still searching, and someone out there knows what happened to them. Number 1. Trevaline Evans. In June 1990, 52-year-old Trevaline Evans vanishes from the bustling Welsh town of Llangollen in broad daylight, resulting in what police called one of the strangest cases they've ever worked. June 16, 1990 starts out like any regular Saturday for Trevaline. The only difference is her husband was out of town that day, had been for the previous week. She opens up her antique shop as usual. Customers come and go. And around lunchtime, a friend drops off flowers, and Trevaline makes plans for a girls' night with her the following week. Now, sometime after noon, she tapes a handwritten note to her door that reads, "Back in 2 minutes." But she never comes back. Her car is there, her handbag, her keys, even her makeup compact are left inside the shop, all suggesting that Trevaline truly thought she would only be gone for a moment. But she is never seen again. Now, in the days leading up to her disappearance, people around town noticed something unusual. Trevaline was seen several times with an unidentified, smartly dressed man. This guy was in a suit, carrying a briefcase. I mean, the very morning she disappeared, she was spotted walking down the street with him. But despite a nationwide search, police were never able to identify this mystery man. Naturally, rumors swirl. Was she abducted? Did she walk away from her life? Was she harmed by someone she knew? Was this mystery man a foe, a lover, a friend? Foul play became a real possibility when in 2011, police shocked everyone by arresting Trevaline's husband. However, after questioning, he gets released without charges. And then in 2019, the case took another bizarre turn. Two brothers hear this strange story that leads them to search beneath the floorboards of a nearby golf club, using this tiny camera, specifically looking for Trevaline's remains. And they actually find something and are even able to photograph it. Problem is, days later, police come and they search this same spot, and they claim there's nothing there. Now, the brothers insist that the body was removed, fueling theories of a cover-up. And then not long after, anonymous plaques begin appearing around town, claiming that Trevaline's body was found there, but later hidden, and that someone is denying her justice. More than 30 years later, Trevaline's fate is still a mystery. Who was the man in the suit? What happened to her after she left her shop that afternoon? And was her body really hidden just miles away for all these years? If so, where is it now? So those are 5 mysterious disappearances that you may never have heard of. Unless you're a crime junkie, that is. Each one leaves families still searching for answers and proves that some of the most haunting stories are the ones without endings. If you want to go deeper into these mysteries, you can hear the full stories of all these cases on Crime Junkie, wherever you get your podcasts, or in the Crime Junkie fan club. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss our next investigation.